Hey guys, so it's been quite a long time since I actually filmed a video for you guys, and I've had several requests for you guys to make a video on factoring and polynomials. So I went ahead and from your online textbook I printed out a like a quiz or a test from there, and I'm just going to go ahead and do some of the questions with you guys. It's a total of 20 questions, and so I'm just going to do some of them with you, and hopefully that helps to get you into the mindset of how to factor, and hopefully it helps you with better understanding basically. So go ahead, take out a sheet of paper and pencil, and I'm going to flip the camera over and we'll just get straight into this. Alright, so here we have factoring polynomials. Alright, so the first question is, what is the product of 11x and 3x minus y? So what you're doing here is pretty simple. You're just going to, sorry, the camera keeps focusing. You're just going to distribute. You're doing 11x times 3x minus y. And we know that because it's saying product, and we know that product means to multiply. So 11x times 3x gives us 33x squared. And then 11x times negative y gives us a minus 11x y. And that's it. Okay, so now number 2 says, what is the GCF of 10 and 20? So you're just looking at the greatest common factor. So what do 10 and 20 have in common? We know that multiples of 10, or factors of 10, sorry, are 1, 2, 5, and 10. And then 20 is 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and 20. So they both have a 10 in common, which is the biggest factor that they have in common. They both have a 2, they both have a 5, but 10 is the biggest. Okay? Now, when doing this with variables, you're technically still doing the exact same thing. So with 12, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. And then x squared is x times x. Now 18, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. We've got 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 18, and then we've got that x. So we've got a 6 in common, and we also have 1x in common. So our GCF is 6x. Okay, so now over here, moving on to question number 4, it's asking us to find the complete factorization of 16x squared minus 24y. So the first thing you want to do is look to see if there is a GCF. And we know that between 16 and 24, they both share an 8, so it's not going to be A. And if I have 16x squared minus 24y, if I divide both by 8, then 16 divided by 8 gives me 2. My x squared stays there. And then I've got 3y. And right here, I know that I divided by an 8, so my GCF is what's going to come on the outside. And so my answer is B. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the factorization of 7 times x minus 3 plus y times x minus 3. Now, in class I showed you guys before, if I have 7 plus y times x minus 3, if I wanted to multiply this, I can separate this binomial into a distributive property looking like this. I have my 7 times x plus 3, and then I've got my y times x plus minus 3. So all I did here was I moved this 7 over here with the x minus 3 and this y with my x minus 3. So this x minus 3 that you see here repeated doesn't really exist 2 times. It really only exists 1 time. So I know that this is x minus 3, and then my 2 outside parts here are going to go inside as one binomial. Okay? So let's move on. So what is the correct factorization here? So remember, when you have a coefficient on the outside of your trinomial, I have to do 3 times 8, which gives me 24. And so I'm looking for factors of 24 that add up to 14. So I've got 1 times 24, 2 times 12, and I can stop here because I know that 2 plus 12 gives me my 14. So I'm going to write my first term as 3x and 3x as two different numerators. Now I'm going to do 2 and 12. Okay, so I get this factor, put it as my denominator, and this factor, put it as my denominator. Simplify your fraction. This one cannot be simplified, so it's going to stay as 3x plus 2. And I'm sorry that my work here is all kind of jammed up. And this 3 and this 12 can be simplified by 3 to get x over 4, which gives me x plus 4. So I've got 3x plus 2 and x plus 4, so my answer is B. And if you were to multiply this, 3x times 4, 2 times x, and 2 times 4, and combine your like terms, you will see that you will come right back to that trinomial. Now for question number 7, it's asking us which method can be used to factor out this binomial. Okay, I have factoring by GCF, factoring by grouping, or factoring by difference of squares. Factoring, let's go from bottom up. A difference of squares. This is a square. There's a difference. X squared is obviously a perfect square, but 5 is not. So I cannot use difference of squares. Factoring by grouping we use when we've got 4 terms. I've only got 2 terms, so I cannot do this. So I'm going to simply take out my GCF, and I would actually have 5 and then x squared minus 5. And that's what I would get if I were to factor that out. All right, question number 8, which of the following binomials is a difference of squares? This is a perfect square. This is not. This is not a perfect square, and neither is this 10. But x squared and 1 are both perfect squares, and if I were to factor this, I have x minus 1 and x plus 1. Okay, because remember, when you've got the difference of squares, it's always 1 plus, 1 minus. Okay, now over here, it's asking me to complete my factorization, so I'm just factoring this. I first want to look to see if I have a GCF. Between 25 and 36, I do not have anything in common. I do notice that this is a perfect square and this is a perfect square. So I know that this is 5x times 5x, and this is 6 and 6. So I'm going to do 5x plus 6 and 5x minus 6. Again, if it's a difference of squares, 1 plus, 1 minus. The order of this does not matter. So I could have 5x minus 6 and 5x plus 6. That order doesn't matter. Okay, so this question is similar to this x squared minus 1. All right, moving on. I have this question over here. It says to find the product. Okay, so I've got x times x is x squared. X times negative 7 is negative 7x. 5 times x, 5x. And then I get a negative 35. I can combine my like terms to get x squared minus 2x minus 35. All right, and so that is my final answer here. All right, now GCF here, that's a pretty common question. Between 45 and 60, I would say our GCF would be 15. Factoring over here, they both share a 3. They both share a y, so I can divide both by 3y. And so when I divide by 3y, I'm left with 2 plus 3y, and that would be my final answer. Okay, now again, some more factoring for you. And I know I'm going through these kind of quickly, but again, this should be more of a review. And I just wanted to do some examples for you. And I also don't want this video to be 1 million minutes long, and we're pushing 10 minutes now. So over here, it's asking me to factor them, and if they cannot be factored, then to simply write that it is not factorable. So between 7 and 77, I know that I have a 7 in common. I'm left with x minus 11. Okay, 6 and 11 don't have any common factors. X and y are not common, so not factorable. All right, over here, my GCF is an x, so I could take an x out. I'm left with 8 minus x. Okay, now over here, I look at my two parentheses. I see that they are exactly the same. That means that one of them only exists. And whatever's on the outside now goes on the inside. Okay, now number 14 is a question that's very similar to the one that was on your take-home test. So here, I'm only going to do one of them just for sake of time. I don't want to spend too much time, but all you're doing here is substituting this value in for C. So I'm going to do A, and I'm going to say x squared minus 3x plus 10. Now, do I have any factors of 10 that add up to negative 3? So I've got 1 times 10, 2 times 5. Now, my b is negative, which means that my bigger term is going to be negative. So 1 minus 10 is negative 9, and 2 minus 5 gives me my negative 3. So I do have factors that work, so my answer is going to be x plus 2 and x minus 5. Okay, now I didn't have to do the little fraction, because if you want to do it, definitely do it when you do this. But I don't have to do it because this trinomial doesn't have a coefficient in the front that needs to get simplified. Okay? So anyways, with this one, you would do the exact same thing, only substituting in a negative 10, and so you'd be looking for a negative 10 and a negative 3. Okay? Now moving forward, here we've got some more factoring. So no coefficient, so 1 times negative 21 is negative 21, and we need it to add up to positive 4. So I know I've got 1 and 21. My smaller one's going to be negative because my middle term is positive, which means that my bigger factor is going to be positive. So I've got negative 3 and 7, and that gives me my positive 4. I don't have a coefficient, so I've got x minus 3 and x plus 7. Okay, here, multiply your a and c, so I've got 3 times 2 gives me 6, and I need it to add up to 7. I know it's going to be 1 and 6. I do have a coefficient, so I need to do my little fraction, so I've got 3x and 3x. Put one factor as this denominator, put the other factor as the other denominator, and simplify. This is not going to simplify, so I'm leaving it as 3x plus 1 because it's positive. This can simplify to 1 and 2, so I've got x plus 2. Okay, and I can very quickly, 3x times x gives me my 3x squared. 1 times 2 gives me 2, and then this 3x times this 2 gives me 6x, and this gives me 1x. When I add them together, I get my 7x. All right, number 17 is asking if that is a difference of 2 squares. It is not a difference of 2 squares because it is not a difference. That is an addition sign, so this is a sum of squares. So sum of squares. Okay, now factoring some more, I do see that this is a difference of squares, so this is p times p, and this is 10 times 10, so I know that I'm going to have 1 plus and 1 minus. All right. Lastly, two numbers that multiply to 25 and add to 10. I know it's going to be 5 and 5, so I know that I have plus 5 and n plus 5. 5 times 5 gives me 25, and 5 plus 5 gives me 10. All right, and same thing over here with this last one. No coefficient, so I needed to add to negative 16 and multiply to 64. I know that I'm going to use negative 8 on both. I have x minus 8 and x minus 8. Again, I'm doing that very quickly in my mind because if you go ahead and do this table, that's how you'll get these factors here. Okay, so 64, so negative 8 and negative 8 gives me my positive 64, and again negative 8 plus negative 8 gives me this negative 16. All right, so I'm very sorry that I did kind of rush through this a little bit. I wanted to give you a quick video, and this is already going to be about 16 minutes long, so I hope that this helps a little bit, and I hope you guys have a great weekend wherever you are and a good rest of your day. So I'll see you guys in class. Have a great one. Bye, guys.